Our government saying it's noted the statements made by the US Secretary of State Marco Rubio this morning. He's confirmed he will not attend the upcoming G20 summit. Rubio's comments mirror those made by US President Donald Trump. He also said he was concerned about our policies. He's also threatened to halt all aid pending an investigation. In response, our government says there is no arbitrary disposition of land and is still open to engaging with the United States government on these issues. We're joined now by Newzroom Afrika's Qaanitah Hunter. Qaanitah, good morning to you. It seems there's been a surge in US political attacks against South Africa. How should we understand these statements?
Absolutely. There seems to be an escalation of hostility from the United States, particularly regarding South Africa's position on expropriation and the Expropriation Act. But now there is a spillover consequence with regards to the G20, which South Africa is hosting this year. I'm joined now by the Director General in the Department of International Relations and Cooperation, Director General Zane Dangor. Thank you very much for your time. The comments made by US Secretary of State Marco Rubio is obviously concerning for South Africa. Do you see that there can be any de-escalation of these tensions given all of these comments?
I think what we must do is engage with the US, and once we get formal notification of who the G20 Sherpa may be, we can engage at that level. We have no formal indication of them appointing a G20 Sherpa to replace the Sherpa team that have all resigned following the elections. What we need to do is explain that our theme is a follow-up from the theme started in Italy. Italy, in the wake of the COVID-19 pandemic, had a focus on solidarity. Theirs was also based on prosperity and the planet. Climate change was critical. The Indonesian theme was similar, also dealing with sustainable development, equality, equity issues. India and Brazil too. So our theme is a follow-up from that. And basically, if you look at the tweet is essentially in line with domestic U.S. policy issues, the approach to what they're calling DEI, which is diversity, equity, and inclusion, which has essentially been the platform for the elections for the current administration. And we have to explain that, of course, these issues are important to South Africa, but they also been important to the entire G20, including the last U.S. team. It's been important to the UN. These are the key issues within the International Bill of Rights. So it's not just our constitutional imperative, it's a global imperative. The International Bill of Rights includes the UN Charter, the Declaration of Human Rights. So these are important concepts which we'll engage with the US on. We can't retreat from them. We can explain them, but we can't retreat from them.
So the theme for the G20 under South Africa's presidency this year is solidarity, equality, and sustainability. Will South Africa, is South Africa open to amending its position in any way to appease the US?
No, we will stick to our theme. The way the G20 works is our theme is, our cabinet agrees on a theme. We then explain our theme and the concept notes that emerge from those themes to, for example, the very first Sherpa meeting, which included the US at that stage, and it was overwhelmingly endorsed as important. And as I said, it's a continuation. I do think that, we will continue with these themes. We can explain it, but we can't undo what is a globally agreed set of imperatives because of the approach the US is taking now.
Beyond South Africa and the G20, this week US President Donald Trump spoke about what he called the resettlement of Gaza, and South Africa has long stated that it believed that there was an attempt to depopulate Gaza. Do you feel vindicated in light of these particular developments, and what happens next?
So it's terrible to be vindicated on such an awful issue. In November 2023, we basically already had a clear sense that the intention of the onslaught was to depopulate. The level of destruction was deliberate, and that's why we approached the ICJ under the Genocide Convention. We will stick to the principles of international law. We will seek to protect the institutions of of global governance, including the ICJ and also the ICC, because we believe that it's in all our interests, not just South Africa's or the Palestinians. Without these institutions, all middle-income countries and countries that do not have recourse to, using economic sanctions unilaterally or the military unilaterally, we depend on these institutions to defend all of us.
DG, South African government says that it will engage with the United States. Is this sufficient given how the tension has escalated?
Look, I think what we must do is engage. What we can only do is engage. I think that we're not engaging from a position of being in the wrong. I think the issues, whether it's the Land Expropriation Act, which is constitutional and has been completely misconstrued, either intentionally or unintentionally, is essentially about redress, historical redress around access to land for the most marginalized in our society. The work that we're doing internationally is also about dealing with justice and equality, which is essentially around the rule of law and rule of just law. These are issues that we will engage with the US to explain that these positions are actually in line with what is globally acceptable, and is essentially part of the normative framework that most countries accept as being the way to move forward. I do think that we're in a space where the post-World War II consensus on what democracy and justice means is under threat. These are all parts of the engagements we'll have at a bilateral level, but also in the multilateral space.
Thank you very much. That was the Director General of the Department of International Relations and Cooperation. Obviously, a lot of concern around the position from US President Donald Trump and his Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, on South Africa and what it means for the G20. There will definitely, Stephen, be a focus on whether President Cyril Ramaphosa weighs in on this when he speaks to the nation later this evening.
Qaanitah Hunter, thank you very much indeed.